can access the same information. It'll be posted to NDOT's website. And I just need to get all my screens fixed up. I'm unmuted, so you can hear me on this. Janine, I believe you're on. Just send us a message if you're unable to hear us. But we've gotten started. Okay, so I'm Amy Birch. I'm a traffic engineer and transportation planner, and I'm a consultant for NDOT and helps to facilitate the traffic calming program for NDOT. And with me, I have Jordan Lipsey. He's also a consultant, and he'll be helping monitor the online chat. So if you have any questions, if you're joining us online, you can put those in the chat box or raise your virtual hand, and we'll be sure to get to those. Also, Jordan's going to be helping me take notes and listening to what you all have to say as we go through this. So as we go through this, we're going to talk about the program, what NDOT's Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program is. We're going to talk specifically about Valley Brook and how Valley Brook was selected for the traffic calming program. And then we're going to talk about our toolbox, the measures that we use to achieve slower speeds on residential streets. And then we do have a concept plan that we'll go over. It's purely concept. This is a starting place for us to get some feedback and get some talking with you all about what you'd like to see. And so we've developed something to work from. And then we will talk about next steps in the program and the voting process that goes along with this project. So with that, I'll get started with our background info. Here we go. So what is traffic calming? The Neighborhood Street Traffic Calming Program focuses on residential streets, so streets like Valley Brook. And what we do with this is implement physical measures to encourage slower speeds over the length of the street, because we're really mostly targeting the speeding. We talk about the 3 E's of traffic calming often: education, enforcement, and engineering. Education, so we use these meetings to do some education of the public about traffic calming. NDOT also does some external education about safety and speeding and so forth. And then enforcement, that's obviously the job that the police department does. And they have obviously a big job. We have lots of streets in Nashville. They can't possibly be on every residential street 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So that's where engineering comes in. And that's what this program primarily focuses on, is the modification, or what can we do to the street to encourage those slower speeds. This graphic, we're talking about safety and vision zero, and really the correlation between speeding and a pedestrian's chance of survival if they're hit by a vehicle. So on the left, we have at 25 miles per hour, a pedestrian has an 89% chance of survival if they're struck by a vehicle. But if the vehicle, as that vehicle goes up to 35 miles per hour, that chance of survival goes down to 68%. And then at 45 miles per hour, the chance of survival goes down to 35%. And this is some national data. So, but not only do we know that there's a strong correlation between speeding and the severity of crashes, but also at slower speeds, crashes can be avoided more easily altogether, because your cone of vision as a driver is broader. You are driving slower, so your reaction time is, you have a longer time to react if you see something in the road, to slow down and avoid the collision altogether. So that's why we're really targeting speeding and trying to slow drivers down on residential streets. So this is a neighborhood program. We've always called it kind of a neighborhood-led program. We want to include as much engagement as possible. And also it's an application program. So streets and neighbors can apply for traffic calming on their street. We have 2 windows of applications per year. And so it's a very popular program. And as of the last time, in last August, we had over 500 neighborhood streets that had applied for traffic calming. So there's quite a bit of demand. This map on the right is is showing in the pink lines kind of where those streets are that have applied for traffic calming. And then this street, Valley Brook, was selected for the program out of those 500 streets in late last summer. And with that, NDOT selected 85 streets for traffic calming. This was a larger selection than typical because there was surplus budget at the end of the year, at the end of fiscal year, that council members, the council allocated towards traffic calming. So it added an extra 60 streets to what would have been a 25 street selection. We were able to select a larger group. So Valley Brook was one of those 85 streets. Outside the traffic calming program, you may have needs to access metro government, metro departments. If you're not familiar with the hub, we always want to explain the hub a bit and point you in the right direction. You can access the hub by dialing 311 or hub.Nashville.gov. There's also an app you can download onto your smartphone, but this is how you can make requests for needs or issues in your neighborhood or at your home. Things like you see a street sign that's been knocked down or a street light is out. You can reach NES that way. It gets the request to the right department, the right person to answer and solve your issue. So it's not just NDOT, Metro Water, you've got storm grate that's clogged, things like that. So, and a great thing about the hub is that you get a service request number and something you can follow up on if you need. So back to the traffic calming program. I told you that we had over 500 streets that had requested traffic calming. We obviously can't address all 500 streets with the budget that's available. So how are streets selected in this program? We have a data-driven prioritization process where we look at 5 primary criteria for every street that applies for traffic calming. And then we rank those streets based on the scoring of this criteria. And those that score at the highest are the ones that are selected associated with the budget that's available at that time for that selection period. So we look at vehicular speed. We go out and measure the speed on all these streets, and we compare the what we typically call the prevailing speed, the 85th percentile speed, to the posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour. And so the 85th percentile speed is the speed that 85% of the traffic is going that speed or below. And it also means that 15% is going above that number. So we look at speed, that's worth 45% of the score. We look at volume, the daily volume on the street, that's both directions of travel. That's worth 25% of our score. We also look at trip destinations. Are there places nearby where we would expect people to want to walk to and from this street? Things like libraries and schools and parks. So we take that into consideration. That's worth 5% of the score. We also look at non-driver accommodations, whether there's sidewalk on the street, whether there are bike lanes on the street. Things like that, bus routes nearby where we would expect people to be using the street as a pedestrian. And that is worth 15% of the score. And then the last 10% of the score is the vulnerable user injury and fatality criteria. And so what we do is we look back at 10 years worth of data to find out if there's been any pedestrian or bicycle crashes on the street. So as I said, we score every street that requests traffic calming through this data-driven process, and those that score with the highest are the ones that have demonstrated the greatest need for traffic calming, and those are the ones that are selected. So Valley Brook Road, we're talking about the whole loop, Crescent, Woodmont to Woodmont. I want to show you some of the data that we have collected on your street. The 85th percentile speed we measured at 36 miles per hour, where the posted speed limit is 25. So again, the 85th percentile speed is the speed that 85% of the daily traffic is going that speed or below, but 15% was measured going higher than that number. And the daily volume was about 2,900 cars per day. And then The street width, as you know, is pretty narrow. It's got center lines on it, 10-foot lanes. And there's not any sidewalks or bike lanes on this street, and it's categorized as a local street. So I'm showing a map here that is taken from our from NDOT's traffic calming tracker map online on their website. I've just highlighted Valley Brook. So this is the study area we're talking about. So I've got our legend over here because there's several other streets you'll see on this map with various different colors. And that corresponds to where they are in the program. So those pink streets, which I think is on this map nearby Kenway and Sugar Tree, those are streets that have applied for traffic calming, but they have not been selected yet at this time. And then Valley Brook is in our meeting and design phase. That's where we are now in the green. And then Cross Creek that connects between Valley Brook Road and Sugar Tree or and Abbott Martin. That is that street's kind of gone through the process. It was in a selection before Valley Brook. So it's gone through the process and is in the construction queue, waiting for installation. All right, let's talk about our toolkit, what NDOT is using to slow speeds on residential streets. Our primary tool are speed cushions. We use these because they're easy to implement. People generally really like them. They're very effective in slowing speeds. Typically when neighborhoods apply for traffic calming, this is what they're looking for. Not always the case, but we like using these quite a bit. So they're modular rubber devices that are drilled into the pavement. So they're easy to install, they're easy to remove. And we like that because when it's time for the street to get repaved, the contractor can pull them up, store them for a little while, and then put them back after the paving is done. You'll see in these pictures, they have the gaps, which accommodate the emergency vehicles that have wider wheelbases than your typical passenger car or pickup truck. And so they're able to straddle these humps, we call them cushions, easy and not be as affected by the slowing down. So in these pictures, you'll see that they have pavement markings on them that reflect at night. We also pair them with some signage, either at each cushion or at the entrance of the neighborhood and so forth, if there's no other like cross streets. So those give the warning sign that there's a speed cushion, the advisory speed of 20 miles per hour. And then another feature of these is that we can configure them in multiple different ways, depending on the characteristics of the street. Does the street have striping? How wide is the street? So wider streets, we may have them 3 wide. More narrow streets, like the top right hand or left hand, excuse me, we'll just put 1 in each lane. And then in some cases where we might have bike lanes or parking or something, a shoulder, we might use the flexible delineator posts like you see on the bottom right-hand corner. And that's just to keep drivers from trying to drive around them and impact the bike lane. This picture on your bottom left is like a profile view of a 10.5 foot long cushion. And they are 3 inches high at their highest. That middle piece is flat and then it slopes on either side. So when we install these, we have some limitations. We can't put them on steep grade or in curves. And we don't put them too close to driveways so that they're not, at the back of your driveway when you're backing in or turning in and out of your driveway. So we space those away from driveways and street intersections, and then we will install them in a series, typically 400, 500 feet apart, and away from stop signs as well. But we do them in a series so that we get a consistent speed along the length of the street. We're not, if we just put 1, we would probably expect the drivers with the bad behavior, they're speeding, they may slow down fast at this one device. They know there's not another one, they're going to pick up their speed again. So we want to get that consistent speed along the length. So that's speed cushions. We also, NDOT uses speed tables on occasion on specific streets that maybe have higher volume or speed, but these do not have the gaps for the emergency vehicle response. So we use them less often because of that. But as you can see, they're flat on top and they go all the way across the road, but they're made of the same material. So NDOT has done some before-after studies to see how these measures, these vertical measures have been effective in here in Nashville, not just looking at national data, but Nashville data. And a study of 6 streets, we compared the before and after. So the average speed before was 31 miles per hour. That's on the left side of your screen. And after these were installed, the average speed went down to 22 miles per hour. And then the 85th percentile speed that I explained previously, the before was 37 miles per hour. And then after it was installed, it went down to 25 miles per hour. We measured these not like right at the device that's installed, but between, to try to make sure that we're getting that consistent speed. We also use radar feedback signs in this program. You've probably seen these around town. I just saw one on Stokes Lane that's there, but it's basically, they're solar powered. They read the driver's speed as it's approaching. They're usually paired with a speed limit sign like you see in these pictures. And if you're driving over the posted speed limit, it'll flash the speed. It will tell you slow down. And they're also been proved to be effective with some before and after data. We saw the average speed reduced by 6 miles per hour and the 85th percentile speed reduced by 85%. 7 miles per hour, sorry. So NDOT typically uses these on streets where we may not be able to use vertical measures because the volume's too high or the posted speed limit is too high. Or in locations where we have steep grade and curves that we can't use the vertical measures, that's where we would typically use those. Other measures that are used, just some narrowing with pavement markings. Like you see in these pictures, lots of streets have no sidewalk, no shoulder, no markings. And then we can put in some white edge lines to just visually narrow the street. Gets a little bit of speed reduction there. We use bulb outs and chicanes using pavement markings and these flexible delineator posts you see here. The bulb outs kind of narrow the intersection, reduce speeds at turning movements, as you're turning in and out of the intersection. And the pavement markings can also kind of help identify where the on-street parking needs to start and stop to keep that parking away from the stop sign, as well as narrows the intersection for pedestrians that are crossing. So that's the picture on your left. And then the 2 pictures on the right are of a chicane. You may be familiar with Fairfax Avenue here in Nashville, that the on-street parking kind of goes side to side on the street, and that's done through pavement markings like you see here. And just implementing that horizontal deflection in the street because it's otherwise straight, just requiring drivers to slow down to stay in their lane. But we need the right kind of street characteristics to implement something like this. It has to be the right width and on-street parking and so forth. Traffic circles are a tool that's used in this program. These are circular islands installed in the middle of an intersection, and you navigate through them as a driver, similar to a roundabout, counterclockwise to turn left. So you go around the island to make a left, and just implementing that horizontal deflection again to get drivers to slow down as they pass through the intersection.
How many of those have we used?
Not a lot lately.
Okay.
Previously they've been installed with concrete, but now we're trying to use more easy to install measures. And this particular one is a rubber curb with reflective markings, and then it's filled with asphalt.
Okay. So I have seen the one in Bellevue on Sawyer Brown.
Right.
Did a really great job slowing people down, smoothing out traffic
Those are
patterns.
huge roads, right?
Yeah, there's not backups. It's worked really well. Well, now that people have learned how to use them. That was tricky.
I think it's like Harpeth Knoll, maybe,
Yeah.
area. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about our concept that we've put together for Valley Brook, and then we'll go into, we'll have discussion, questions and answers if we need, and then we can go into next steps and so forth. So, but we're here to listen to you, talk to you about what we're suggesting with this plan, and then we can adjust as needed. But what we've put together is a pretty typical plan for this program, which includes installation of speed cushions. They are spaced about 500 feet apart. So it is 8 sets of cushions, and they would be like this picture in the top, which is one cushion in each lane, because these lanes are only 10 feet wide. So we would just center them in the lane with some warning signage as well. So we have 2 sets. North is up. Woodmont is at the top of the screen and goes behind the picture. I'm also showing where the all-way stops are at on your street, at Valley Brook Place, at Cross Creek, and at Knollwood. So we've spaced them away from those. And so this is what we would recommend.
What length are those? I noticed in your 7, 10.5, and 14. What length?
These, we would probably go with 10.5. And to give some examples, the ones that are on Stokes, Castleman, Overhill, those are all 7 feet. We lean towards the longer ones now, so we're using the 10.5 foot ones more often.
Is that because they do a better job slowing people down, or?
They're a little smoother
Okay.
as you travel over them, and so we find that people like them.
Good.
They're smoother. They're still effective without losing the effectiveness, but they're just a little bit easier to drive over as a driver. And we just got better feedback.
Since I don't live on Valley Brook, are those stop signs existing?
Those are existing. Those are existing always stops. Yes, question.
What's the solution for Cross Creek that's going to be in?
Cross Creek, the question for those on the call, Cross Creek was part of the traffic calming program, or is part of the traffic calming program. It was selected in a previous round, and it includes speed cushions, and I believe it's 2 sets of speed cushions, and they are between Valley Brook and Sugar Tree. And it's in the construction queue, so it hasn't been installed yet, but it's gone through the this meeting process and the design, and also the voting process that we'll talk about later.
Can I ask you, when these get in the queue, is there anything on the NDOT website that shows sort of a timeline, even a notional timeline, so people can sort of set their expectations?
Sure. We don't necessarily put a expected date right now. We may go to that later, but in this meeting and in all of our meetings, we talk about that it's about a year from now when it would be installed, if it's approved and it moves forward from this point. You know, we still have time to adjust and so forth. So,
Okay.
but after the voting is done, it's about 8 to 12 months.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions or further thoughts about this plan? Yes.
One more, the stop sign at Knoll,
Mhm.
Knollwood, that was installed, I believe, after we tried speed cushions the first time, maybe. Is that right, Mary Jo?
Well, those were speed bumps.
Yeah. It was studied how effective that stop sign is as part of this or not, because it's not effective.
No.
Is that because people don't in fact stop?
Right, right.
Okay.
The same.
But was that part of the study or?
So the study of the data was primarily, we put tubes across the road and we measure the speed of vehicles as they go across it. So we didn't necessarily take into, we didn't come do a study of these always stops and how they're used. We're primarily focused on what the speed is and the volume. Yes, another question.
I can save you a lot of time and questions. Is that first batch, we may have done that. None of us know who installed them, who had them installed. We think there was some big time muck in Nashville that had it done, but all they did was dump asphalt on the road. And they were horrible. So we need to forget that. And people keep bringing that up. And that was wrong. And if that was before traffic calming or anything. We don't know where they came from. They just were there one night.
You're shaking out old trauma. It's important.
Oh,
So,
But let's-
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. NDOT doesn't do those type of measures. Anything that was,
Calling these cushions is.
you stand up, you're hedge.
These are not cushions.
Exactly.
They're soft, and full of feathers, and they're very comfortable. These are not comfortable. And they're, I travel over many other neighborhoods where they've been installed. They're jostle your car, they're not comfortable. That's a ton of installations on a short street. And particularly, I have to live between the Knollwood stop sign and the Cross Creek stop sign. That's my driveway where you got it. And the neighbors across the street, their driveway. I know they
Fancy house.
for this, yes. I mean, he's a CNN executive. And this is a wonderful neighborhood for us who live there. Saying today, we have to go over this because people driving through who don't live there are causing a problem. It's, to me, not a good solution.
Well, my observation is I haven't been there very long, only about 5 years, but wherever there's a straightaway, people are gonna speed. Now they turn onto Valley Brook at that end from Woodmont, there, got a straightaway, and they haul ass down to the
And
stop.
they know there's a stop sign
Yeah,
there.
and they know it's down.
Stop all the way.
So wherever you've got any kind of straightaway, that's, where the cushions be. I can't speak to that end because I don't live down there, I don't drive down there.
you're talking about the west side?
Yes.
Between Woodmont and Valley.
When they turn on to Woodmont, they're ready to go.
Well, we can speak about, so we live right where the second C is on the left, coming off of Woodmont. And we walk our dogs, we have 2 dogs, we walk them daily. We go down into Foxhall for a short walk, but in the morning we do a long walk. And we go down to Bear, we cut across and come up on Valley Brook, and then go all the way down Valley Brook and up the last street, whose name I forget. And we have been run off the road. If you're a walker in the neighborhood, you have to walk on people's grass. And kindly, people slow down more when we have the dogs than if we walk by themselves, because they're great dogs. But if you're an outdoor person using the street, it's a challenge.
Y'all were hit.
Oh, my husband's car was hit as he turned into our driveway, a right-hand turn, because you have to slow down and take it very slowly because it's a tight turn. Someone was not paying attention and rear-ended him and totaled the car.
Oh my gosh.
Another comment, question?
Just looking at this, what's going to happen? They're gonna hit Bear, cut through Bear Road or seriously, they're gonna
No,
bear the
yeah.
front.
There's a lot of,
Echo Hill's already.
it's already gone.
And we've seen that domino effect elsewhere.
The underlying issue here
There's
is not so much speed, 10 mile over the speed limit issue. But the volume of the traffic, which is caused by Hillsborough not being adequate for all of the development that's been permitted in Green Hills, there are too many cars trying to get through. Another option I've heard of, I don't know how to do this, but there are apparently ways that neighborhoods can petition to get Google Maps and Waze and the other traffic apps to take their streets off the directions. If people didn't know, oh, there's a traffic jam on Hillsborough, let's quickly go through Valley Brook. That would dramatically cut down on the traffic that we're dealing with.
So why a Google app is going to stop people from cutting through from Woodmont to the Green Hills Farm?
Because they're being directed at other activities. They haven't lived here the last 10 years.
Yes.
So I've lived on Valley Brook for 22 years. I live at the stop sign, at the corner of Knollwood, in the house on top of the hill. The stop sign is optional. You know, and what I would say, I've got 2 dogs. I've raised 2 kids that are now out of the house, but, you know, I think that, you know, you've got to have some type of solution because it's not people going 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. It's those that are going 25 and 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, that I have problems with. You know, we walk our dogs on a nightly basis and have almost been hit. And, you know, if you look at what goes on between 3 and 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, especially Fridays, it's a race to get home or to get wherever. And, you know, everybody knows the cut through. So I don't think that changing Google Maps or something else is going to change it, just the institutional knowledge that people have from having done this for so long to avoid Hillsborough and, you know, use it as a cut through from Belmead and other areas to get to 440, it isn't going to change. So, you know, you know, there's only so many things that you can do to slow traffic down. I think that, you know, this is interesting to see and I'm pleased that there's something that's being done.
Yes.
I do know that human intervention, it rarely works. My neighbors and I, and you can bring the radar sign anytime and park it out front of my house. I just did my informal survey that was up, and 1 out of 5 people were doing the speed limit, and everybody else was 15 to 24, you know, at the times through there. And if you do like a slowdown, you get the middle finger salute immediately. So, like, we can't really personally do anything, you know, about that. So, you know, they turn in, they're ready to go.
The new trailer y'all have is cool. It says, slow down when you're over.
Mhm.
And I sat in my drive, probably like you did.
Yeah.
And when they put the last one out, and on every other car, it said slow down.
Yeah.
And just, they, for some reason, they just lay down on it as soon as they turn off Woodmont.
Well, the thing is, if they don't live there, they don't care. That's the idea around the city. If you don't live there, it's not your concern.
You know, Belmead stopped in,
Pardon?
Belmead disappeared through there.
Oh, they do.
Well, they do.
The
They
Belmead
get a lot of revenue from it.
You get out Lakewood and.
We have another comment, question?
Two
Yes.
questions. Is the spacing written in stone there, or could you do less spacing? Or there's 2 seats together? I'm just thinking about
Right,
people here that have to live with it.
sure.
To me, it would make a difference if pull down my driveway, I only had to hit one of those. You know, shock for about, you know, $300 a week. So over time, you know, but, you know, less repetition, for me, for the resident might be at least a little more.
And that's why we're here, yeah, to,
Know if that's an option.
it is, we recommend such that we get a, you know, that consistent speed. We don't want drivers, you know, trying to make up time between them if they get too far apart, you know what I mean? But that's something we could look at to see if we could, if there was any that we could maybe reduce. But, this is kind of the ideal spacing, 500 feet or so.
If you ever mix the types, I mean, like say the radar sign followed by a bump, like where one of the bumps is there'd be a sign, then the speed bump, you know, not continuously, but you could replace maybe some of those with radar sign. some other sign.
Sure, we have used the radar signs with speed cushions in places mostly where we have like a steep hill or downhill where people are gonna speed down the hill.
Just one more question.
Yeah, oh, yes,
Is
you
there
did.
technology to, I know there is, but is there technology to, I know there is on traffic lights. Is there technology to snap license plates and measure speed?
I don't believe that's allowed
Tickets or
here.
what the
That's not in our toolbox, and I'm not sure that it's allowed.
I don't think so. It's something.
I've lived there for 12 years. I've not seen this problem. I'm on the east side here, and I've spoken to 9 neighbors on the east side, all of whom are vehemently opposed to speed cushions or speed bumps. Sounds like the west side really needs it, because they, I guess it's a longer route, but everybody I've talked to on the east side is opposed to it. I hate to have one size fits all. And probably the people here are the ones who most want speed bumps, rather than the people who didn't want them. 9 people asked me, because I was coming, to express their strong opposition to this.
Thank you for sharing that information. To answer your question, I think, yes, it's on the table that we can kind of modify this plan, that maybe fewer of the cushions over on the east side, and maybe leave these over here on the west side. There's opportunity to make some
Did your
adjustments.
monitor both sides?
No, we
We
did not.
Difference, walking
Right.
the dog on both sides.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
I walk in the neighborhoods all over.
yeah, for some of you.
So you got.
But again, we do use the cushions that we think are easier to travel over. They still require you to slow down to the 20 to 25 miles per hour to travel over them, but are smoother than the ones you may be familiar with on Overhill and Castleman and Lombardy and Stokes. The ones that we're talking about would be longer.
Amy, you said you
Yes.
didn't use the speed tables very much. But the emergency vehicles can't, but I don't know where I've gone over them, but you could almost put one of those by our house. It's long in the middle, so you come up a nice rise, you go across the flat and then down the other side rather than going over a hump. And you drive, and I don't know what the width of them, how wide they are at the top, on the tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
But to me,
The same width.
They're the,
I went over one not long ago and I couldn't.
so, we talked about the different lengths, the 7, the 10.5, and the 14.5 feet long. So this picture up here is 14 feet long. This picture is 10.5. And we usually use these 14-foot long ones on streets that have like higher volume than we have on Valley Brook, but it's still something that can be considered. And so the longer they are, the smoother they are, but they still reduce speeds, but probably not quite as much. Most of our data is from the shorter ones. And then the ones on the top right are 7-foot long ones, and that's like what's on Stokes in Lombardy. So we could talk about doing the 14-foot long ones that they more resemble the tables. See how long they are?
My question is about
Yes.
studies and how effective speed signs really are. When you turn into Woodmont there on that end, there's already 2 signs right there. There's a 25-mile-an-hour speed sign, and there's a holdover from the previous traffic calming thing, right? And nobody sees them.
Right.
Unless there's a tree behind them, when they hit that corner, they don't see it. You know, I mean, I don't know if it would make any difference if they could see them. But there's already two signs there that nobody pays any attention to.
Sure, they're there, they've been there a long time.
They're on the gas when they turn.
And
Yeah.
I think what they say is, speed limit strictly enforced.
Right. Well, these are contact lane, but they're also right next to a tree, so they're not sticking out
Mhm.
to be seen.
It's a travel.
I
So
mean, that's something you could do cheap, start,
trim,
you know, or make it bigger or.
One other thing, issue that I've heard, Bill, actually, on the west side of it, is the traffic backup on the.
Yeah, that's my memo.
Oh, yeah.
I lived on a major intersection, a residential area in Minneapolis. We're moving near Springville Road in 96, which was very much like Valley Brook. It was a beautiful old neighborhood, but it was 2 blocks off Meridian. So people were rushing to get home to Carmel during rush hour, cut over to Springville and go up that street, creating a traffic lineup. I couldn't get out of the drive during rush hour. I just knew to plan not to try to get out of my circular drive during that time. They put in a speed bump to try to address that. It doubled the time, because it took people longer to get out, to do that. I wonder, but then they ultimately put in a stoplight, which had the most impact intersection, because there was, people had a time when they could get in and get out. We had a traffic light on Woodmont and Brook that might regulate and enable people to get out of the driveways. It would slow people down because there's a traffic light there. They can't just swing in. It's too.
I think,
The other one involved.
yeah, and we usually think that signals will attract traffic because it makes it easier and you may find more traffic coming through if that's an easy way to get back onto
Worst
Woodmont.
backup time is during the holidays.
Mhm.
Yeah, when everybody's Christmas shop.
In some roads, there are very large things painted in the middle of the road that says 25 miles an hour. Are those not effective?
I think they have been somewhat effective, but not as effective as these physical vertical measures. And, over time, people might get used to them and ignore them. Mhm. Right. This program has focused more on vertical measures and the radar feedback signs and things that we know are very effective. And that's what we're trying to do, is really reduce those speeds with physical measures. If this doesn't, go through the whole approval process within the community, that might be a tool that we use as kind of a plan B.
But I'm thinking, if you had those big yellow things painted in the middle of the road that says 25 miles an hour, every place that you have a traffic calming ad, might that do something?
It may be nominal amount of reduction.
Don't know.
So those traffic circles also are extremely effective. Mayor of Carmel, while I was there, took out every traffic light all over Carmel and put in
Roundabouts,
traffic
yeah.
circles.
Mm-hmm.
It greatly increased the flow of traffic, reduced all the backup, cut down the speeding. They're tremendous.
Well, right, so you have to slow down.
Yes, and nobody has to stop. The traffic just keeps flowing. The entire city of Carmel is traffic circles.
Right. This program is not, implementing roundabouts like that. We're trying to do low-cost measures that can be very effective.
Aside, but I walk my dog all the time too, and I have to get the heck off Valley Road to be on a good place, to keep from getting run over. But there's a no outlet sign there, but really it's a dead end. Can that not be a dead end? There is Foxhall closed, a closed gate that they have, only the neighbors can get into. I can't tell you how many cars and trucks I see trying to go down Valley Brook Place, and then they see there's no way to get through, and they have to turn around and go back out.
Yes, that's a great thing to put into the hub, and NDOT will look at that and see if it needs better signage.
Let me know what the case number is, and I can follow up on it.
And if this,
I just want to say something before I leave.
Yes.
I'm at 2419 Valley Brook on the west side. Grew up on Avamar. My parents was there since the 80s. Where I was been in Nashville, very nice for a long time. I love Valley Brook Road. I've been there for about 8 years now. So I'm on there, great people. I love this idea. I like it. I think that we can remove those cushions on the east side. Once you get past if you head from west to east, once you get to that stop sign, you're going to go as fast as you can to make up time. So I don't know if you guys would like that on the east side. Just keep that in mind. I love how it is.
So the other thing I did.
Thank you.
About where I live. So 3 cars have been totaled in my front yard. One has gone through the bridge into the creek.
Wow.
It's been rebuilt. You can see where it's been rebuilt, and we've had one hit the tree on our side, and then one in Earl's Weaver's house. They've since moved out. The black house on the other side of the street. So speed does matter. Severe accidents where people had to be taken away in ambulances, et cetera. So there is definitely a speeding problem through there, and something needs to be thought of it, and so I appreciate the ideas here.
Well, let's yes, one more.
This may sound a little naive, but I drive through neighborhoods. Otter Creek is, I think, one Creek Hall where my friends live, and they have these speed cushions. I'm not going to call them speed bumps, and I respect them. And I realize that it's a residential area, and I should be driving slowly through it. And so I don't have any problems with if there's any discomfort with having a speed cushion, because it's the right thing to be doing. If that's the only way to get people to do the right thing, then let's do this. I think this is fabulous.
Thank you for your input. I'm going to go on and let's talk about how the flow of this program and next steps, and then we can come back and answer and talk more about questions and things, of course. So as I said earlier, there's an application process. There's 2 application windows per year. And then we take these applications and collect the necessary traffic data, and we put that together and do our prioritization process that we talked about in those early slides. Then we have our neighborhood meeting, which is what we're doing here with our concepts. We talk about the program and so forth. And then from there, we'll take any input if we need to update or modify the design. Then we do the more detailed plan, which is it will be zoomed in more. You'll be able to see exactly where the cushions go. There'll be measurements and details about exactly where it is, some landmarks like addresses and things like that, so you can kind of drill into the plan. And from there, we typically will go into our online ballot. This is our voting period for the project. And I have 2 more slides to talk more detailed about that. But essentially, the residents, the property owners on the street have an opportunity to vote on the project. And if 66% of the vote is favorable, then the project would move forward into the construction phase. So that's the online ballot is about a two-month period. And then it would move into the construction, which is 8 to 10 months after that. But we always open this if there's a need to have a second community meeting to look more detailed at the designs and speak more about it. Make sure that we've heard what you said and incorporated that into the plan, the designed plan. We can have a second meeting. So we leave that up to council member and the community on whether or not that's needed. But we often find that a lot of communities that we meet with and streets that we meet with, they like the plan. They want to just get it done as fast as possible. They don't want to wait any longer. So we stopped doing those mandatory second meetings and move straight into the voting part. So the balloting, that's what we call it, is an opportunity for the property owners to review the plan. It'll be posted online and vote. So we send postcard mailers with unique IDs for all the properties that are eligible to vote. The voting is open for 6 weeks. There's the voting closure is on the postcard that you get in the mail. It has a QR code that takes you to the online voting. So you can type in your name and your unique ID and vote yes or no for the project. And then if 66% of the respondents vote yes, then the project moves forward into our construction phase. So on these postcards, they're mailed to the property owner's address. It has some information about the project. It has a link to the online ballot as well as a QR code. So you can snap it with your phone, or you can type it in and go there on your computer. There'll be a link at the top of the form where you vote that takes you to the plans, all of our traffic calming plans posted online, so you can review the Valley Brook plan. So anyone that maybe isn't familiar with the project, they haven't seen these meeting notices and so forth, and they weren't here, but they want to vote, they have that opportunity to review it. There's also a phone number on the postcard, so if there's anyone that's unable to vote online for any reason, they can reach NDOT and ask for assistance with that. So you're probably interested in what the ballot zone is, who has the opportunity to vote. This is taken from Metro's address tool, but essentially I've drawn a red line over all the properties, and then it highlights the properties in yellow that would be getting those postcard ballots. So it's all properties, residential properties, churches and schools that have that abut the street, essentially, that have that are on the affected right of way. So owners that have multiple properties, they get one vote. Vacant properties are not eligible. Businesses are not eligible. So looking at this zone for Valley Brook, it looks like there's 52 eligible properties that would have that opportunity to vote on the project. Any questions about the voting, the balloting, or anything? We don't have to wrap up. I'm just, yes.
So if 66% is not reached, you had mentioned earlier, we can go back and look at other options.
So what we do, what NDOT does is if the ballot fails, so to speak, we would put together a plan B that does not include intrusive measures like the vertical measures. We really only require the balloting for vertical measures or like traffic circles if that was the plan. So that might include the pavement markings that you were mentioning. It might include other types of striping. I don't think we would add any more like lane striping on Valley Brook, but it could also include the radar feedback signs.
What about rumble strips?
No, we don't do the rumble strips, no.
Could we break it up into 3 different sections? So we've got West Valley Brook and the other, and then the east. If the west wanted it and the others didn't, I mean, you'll see what the votes, how it breaks down.
The question is it okay to look at it as maybe an east and a west? I don't know that we would do.
I mean, if Woodmont to Valley Brook
3 sections
was 66% wanted to, couldn't we do that?
You have to get approval for the whole project instead of just.
We typically do. I did talk with NDOT about this because I thought that might be a case, and we could break it up if that was what community wanted to do. I think that there were some valid points about, you know, if it's not done on one side and it is on the other, maybe your cut through kind of changes. And it shifts or something like that. So, yes.
I'll just point out something on the map.
Yes, please.
Come to your point about that we reduced the number. So he was talking about the wrecks, the 3 wrecks. They happened right in here. Okay. And it's because when you hit that curve and people start losing control, by the way, we live here. And we've had a car that rear-ended and pushed underneath this magnolia tree, all the way under. So it was like a bat cave. It disappeared. So that's when they're starting to gain speed kind of right through here. And then they start to gain speed, kind of about right here.
That's where it straightens out.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
straight away, people gotta.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
So if you were, are you saying you think that these three are needed in that section, or are you saying that maybe we reduce one and adjust the locations?
maybe just two.
Maybe just two, okay,
But,
yeah,
yeah, I just wanted everyone else to understand what he was talking about.
Mhm. right, thank you.
I am not usually someone who causes contention. I like consensus and convening people. But I do feel, since I've been asked to speak on behalf of the people who are not here, and I guess you've got most of the people who are in favor of doing this here, just once again to indicate that there's a group of people who are fairly strongly opposed to this. And maybe there isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. For those who need it, let's try to help them. For those who don't, let's not. And also, I'll just say from the aesthetic point of view, Valley Brook Road is such a beautiful drive. It was designed by the Olmsted people to be like Central Park, like driving through Central Park in a gliding kind of way, to have all these bumps and things in there. Well, Central Park has beautiful drives. And it's going to detract from the sensuous feel of driving through there. I understand people's concerns, and I don't want to diminish those, but I'm also just pointing out some other issues to consider.
What about that longer cushion length? Is that
The 14.
more of the 14-foot long ones? Is that more amenable to,
Is that less?
I wish-
Yes.
If they were reading strong about it, they should be.
Or here, listen to us.
Yeah.
Because they decided that our voices don't matter by now.
I'm sure that's not their attitude.
right, I don't want to take too much away from the plan for those that are very much in favor of it.
Question, so
Yes.
the vote, when we get there, is it gonna be this, or do we have a chance to appeal to maybe reduce the number? Where do we go between, if we had a conditional approval, some people, but maybe less than, how do we get to that? Is this what you're gonna see on the ballot?
In this case, it might be worthwhile to have a second meeting to, let us go back, make some adjustments to this plan based on what we're hearing, without, removing everything and not being effective in reducing speeds, because we still want that. That is our goal, is reducing speeds. But if we made some adjustments to the plan, we came back to you and showed you that, then we would move into the ballot.
Because I mean, I'm just thinking about trying to get grocery store, and if you put the number that,
Everybody driving in on Cross Creek.
Cross Creek's next, and that's how we get to the grove. So if Cross Creek's next, I mean, difference in going over 4 or 5 of these versus 2 is a huge difference. In my mind, I mean, we have to use the road in.
Yes.
You have to use.
Yes, many times.
Have you gone over?
Yes, I go through, the ones on Overhill are through. If this design was for Overhill, I would vote against it strongly. But
Overhill.
eligible, I would consider it, and if it's less frequent, consider it, but not, the Overhill deal is brutal. I mean, I don't know how people live on that street.
So the Overhill, are the short ones that we're not suggesting those. We're talking about at least 10.5 feet long. Those are 7. But we could also go up to the 14-foot long.
When would we go
cushions.
drive over 14 foot?
The ones I know of are, Curry Road, I think, Curry Road.
Oh, that's out.
Where is that?
And, it's in the like East Thompson neighborhood area.
What's those on, are those 7?
Those are 7.
What's that?
I think those are 7.
What's on Kingsbury?
I'm not sure about
The
Kingsbury.
10.5 foot.
10.5 are on Breslin. Are you familiar with Breslin that goes over
in
Westmead to Charlotte? Those are 10.5 foot long ones. Trying to think of other ones nearby.
Something where it starts out like this, sort of to shock the drivers into going else. And then it pull one out here. You say, they're easily that. So, I mean.
I believe that our program does have a, a similar process of having them removed, which is another vote.
So it's not like.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't think this is gonna reduce the traffic. People are gonna.
It's not about reducing traffic. So, question,
Think that.
is there any paving that's gonna take place? So Echo Hill was paved 3 years ago. Valley Brook hasn't been paved in probably 10 years, 12 years. So I just recommend that you look at,
Right.
that side of it as well.
NDOT, when we get to the construction phase of projects, we look at and look at the paving list to see if it's coming soon, and we may delay, or we may go ahead and install, and then the contractor picks them up and puts them back, So we do coordinate with that as best we can. There's some other streets that are in the construction queue that are waiting on the paving. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
I avoid Overhill and Kingsbury.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
That's what.
So it's been effective.
Yeah.
But if you live there, you can't avoid it.
I do want to show our, I'm not necessarily wrapping this up, but I wanted to tell you about our website, TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. You can use this QR code and go there, but that's where the manual is for this program, as well as our tracker maps. You can track projects. We show which projects are in the balloting phase and which projects are in the construction queue now, and which ones have been applied for and haven't been selected. And then we also, on that website, that's where we post all of our plans that are being voted on at the time, and then they move into the voting closed section at the bottom. This meeting and all of our meetings are posted there. And see what else is on there.
If people have
Or
more,
the results of our ballots are posted there as well, not individual votes or anything, but just like it was 75% in favor, so it passed, all that.
if people have more thoughts or questions
Mm-hmm.
or concerns, can they email you? Should
Yes.
they email you?
Yes.
Okay.
You can email me. Our whole point of these meetings is to provide information about the program, present a plan, and get feedback from the neighborhood, and adjust as needed. So Councilwoman, and Bill, I think he's been our contact for this neighborhood, but, would you say you'd like us to hold another meeting?
How does everyone feel on that?
I think we should.
Would you like them to come back with a slightly tweaked plan?
Everyone have a voice.
Maybe it's on one side or longer, or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
One long one instead of 2.
right. So we'll make some adjustments to the plan, and it'll be more engineered. So we'll have the sheets for every
Okay.
section at that point, and the links and how far it is from this driveway and so forth. So you'll be able to see that. We may, print them out and lay them on a table so you can look at them more closely, that sort of thing.
Okay.
At that
sounds
meeting.
good.
So that's good. Okay.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you all. Thank you. Were there any questions from the chat? Okay. Thanks for joining. We're gonna wrap this up.
That's not me. And I bet six. I bet six. David, so I bet six. Which one? They're already.